So one concern in looking at the proposal is that information flow, and to ensure that not only the individuals charged with the counterterrorism mission in the state, in the executive branch at the higher levels, who are advising the governor on these matters, are receiving the latest and the best intelligence and the most timely intelligence that they possibly can. The National Security Act and the way the National Security Councils was set up is there just for that reason, so that the decision makers, the policy makers, are receiving that information on which to make good legislative decisions and good executive actions. So I'm looking forward to working with staff and finding a way that we can accomplish this and ensure that regardless of who sits in our chairs, my chair, your chair, or your very experienced and diligent staff, we want to make sure that that information flow happens regardless of personality, regardless of relationship. The process piece, I think, is something we need to continue to work on. And with regard to your training center, I think I've mentioned that one of the key lessons from the 9/11 Commission report, and certainly something we've learned locally in the wake of Superstorm Sandy and recent weather events, is that we should train the way we fight. So on the ground in response and recovery operations, preparedness as well, we should train at the local level the first responders who will actually be responding to those disasters, whether it's New York City or Buffalo or Suffolk and Nassau counties. While it's great that we have these statewide investments in the training centers, I hope we can work with the executive and with your department to make sure that we're pushing some of that training and those training dollars down to the local level, to the cities, to the counties who are asking us for that, to bring fire, law enforcement, police, your first responders, your ambulance companies, bring them together for realistic training at the local level, because in the event of a catastrophic attack or weather event, they're going to be responding together. And going back to that personality issue, it's great that those personalities know each other before they're responding, as I'm sure you could attest to in your distinguished career. I think it's very important, and I hope to work with the staff and your division to ensure that that occurs.
I look forward to that, Senator.
Assembly, thank you.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Peoples-Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Melville, for your testimony this morning. I would join my other colleagues who have already expressed how the #1 issue for everyone who lives and represents this government is that our citizens must be safe. And we do realize that we live in a difficult time, and so your due diligence to make sure that we are safe is very much appreciated. I did want to just really comment on the citizen preparedness. I have had a few of them in the district, and they've been located in different places, and different citizens have attended it, and they have very much appreciated that. So while, you know, our first responders are highly skilled and trained, I think it's also important for the average citizen to understand what you should do in case of some disaster. So thank you for that. I understand from looking at the budget that there's a $14 million in additional dollars for counterterrorism in New York City by the state police, and an additional $23 million by the National Guard for New York City. And so I guess my question is, clearly New York City, having been targeted before, and to see the finances in our state, and quite frankly, to see the finances in the world, should be protected. But I'm just wondering how far will these dollars be able to go to protect other parts of the state? I did hear your comments about Rochester, and as you know, I'm located very close to that, so we were paying attention to that issue. But we are a state that borders Canada, 15 minutes if you're in Buffalo, and closer in some other places.
Absolutely.
And so I'm wondering, could you speak a little bit about why all those dollars are being designated to, excess dollars being designated to New York City?
Sure, Assemblywoman, thank you for your comments about citizens preparedness. We're very proud of that training effort. We fund we, being the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, fund every county in the state through our State Homeland Security Grant Program. We also fund different areas across the state through our targeted grant programs and other grants that we administer. There's also a UASI federal grant that a lot of money goes to New York City, Long Island, Westchester. That is a decision that is made by the federal government with respect to where UASI stands for Urban Area Security Initiative, where they are. We don't decide that, the federal government does. I believe, and I really can't speak to the National Guard budget items or the state police, but I would suspect that that money is probably going to be used to continue the governor's initiative of putting troopers and National Guard soldiers in the very important transportation hubs in and around New York City, whether it be Grand Central, Penn Station, or those types of, but it's probably a question that can be better answered by either the superintendent or General Murphy.
Okay, well, I was very excited about the announcement of the cybersecurity curriculum at U of Albany. And I note from your comments that there are some 159 students that have availed themselves of that opportunity. That might seem like a large number now, but it's really not, particularly with the increasing rates of people being hurt, average citizens being hurt by people abusing the internet. Not to withstand what could happen from a violent perspective, but from a consumer perspective, it's a huge issue. And so, is there any thought by your agency, or I guess we can also ask this question of Nancy Zeffler from SUNY as well, and CUNY, if there's any thought about expanding this curriculum to other colleges and universities throughout the state?
I can't answer that, Assemblywoman. I don't know. I can tell you that the college originally was hoping for 50 students to sign up for the minor. They got 159. The major will hopefully be available this fall. We're excited at the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services about the college because it will prepare professionals that we can utilize in our field. And we're looking forward to that. We're also excited about it because the SPTC, the training center in Oriskany, will be the out-of-classroom training spot for the students who attend the State University of New York at Albany College of Homeland Security, Emergency Preparedness, and Cybersecurity. So we're happy to showcase that, and we hope the students find that that is a world-class facility.
Thank you. I recently had the opportunity to speak to some veterans in the state of Florida who, where they've established a program specifically to train veterans in cybersecurity. So I'd like to connect with you real soon, perhaps late next week, and have an additional conversation about that end of it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Next, Senator Joe Adabo, ranker on the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Commissioner, for being here today.
Thank you.
And let me echo the sentiments of my colleagues. The daunting task of protecting the roughly 20 million people in New York State. Well, again, thank you very much for your efforts and that of the division. I think the critical movement of the services to New York State Police is a major move, certainly for, again, protection of our people. I'd like to know the further details, if I may. I need to convince, as we all do, our constituency that this is a more efficient move for the protection of our people.
Okay.
Briefly, how do we convince our residents that this is a more efficient move as we look to secure, again, the people of our state?
Sure, Senator. And you know, I've been in this position for a little over a year, and I've had the opportunity to look at the agency as a whole and all the different missions that we were charged with. And the counterterrorism mission is certainly at the forefront of all of those. So we constantly evaluate how we do things and why we do things, and you know, can we do them better? And during the course of this past year, I've had several conversations with members of my staff as well as the state police, and eventually Ray Kelly, the former commissioner in New York City, who was asked by the governor to review the counterterrorism efforts of all the state agencies. After that year of review, my discussions with the superintendent and other public safety partners and Commissioner Kelly, we all agreed that we thought this was a smart move. What it really does is just defines the line of communication and the chain of command a little bit clearer. As I said, those people work in the NYSEC. They're very talented. I'm very proud of them. They're literally probably not going to change their seat at their desk. It's just the line of authority will be right to the state police. It will get to the people that need that information instantaneously. I use that information to pass out to constituents across the state, but I don't need that actionable intelligence as fast as they do. I can set the state homeland security strategy the next day depending on the intel. They need it right then and there to push out. And that's really the reason, is just to try and streamline the chain of command and make things work better, faster, safer for the public.
We've seen, obviously, the importance of information gathering. Rochester, you mentioned earlier as well in your testimony. So again, getting that information quicker certainly makes it more efficient. And I look forward to working with you and furthering, obviously, this critical change. But that being said, with the change going with services to the police, New York State Police, the terror alert system, the New York State Police will then have the authority to use the terror alert system. It would be under their jurisdiction at that point?
Well, we're not giving up any authority in the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services. As I said, Senator, I remain the state Homeland Security advisor, the point of contact from the federal government and to the governor and to the legislature. So that will, in as much as it does now, it will remain with us.
So basically, there was some sense of shared responsibilities here.
Yes, we still are maintaining our core mission, which is, much of that is counterterrorism. This is just a small piece, albeit a very important piece of it.
Restoration of $600 million to now get the total to $1.2 billion for disaster assistance aid to local. Can we talk about possibly how the plan is to spend that money?
That money, Senator, $600 million is just an appropriation. Gives us the authority to spend that if we have to. That's really to be used for future disasters. Hopefully we don't have to spend it, but it's there in case we need to.
I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you. A third of my district was affected by Sandy. You know, the areas of Howard Beach, or Channel Rockaway, I still have roughly over 4,000 people still on the road to recovery 3 years after the storm. So again, I want to say thank you. There's been, again, monies for Sandy. Can you detail or explain those additional monies for Sandy recovery?
Sure. We have funneled more than $5 billion in recovery money to the victims of Superstorm Sandy, Irene, and Lee. We've also funneled approximately $1.4 billion through these, what we call HMGP grants, which are hazard mitigation grant programs. The hazard mitigation grant program money that has been used in your district, Senator, is basically been used for big projects that would benefit whole communities. The individual homeowner would not really be covered through us under that. That would be under a different funding stream, a HUD funding stream, CDGB money that comes under a different, the Office of Storm Recovery. So if those people in your district are struggling, we'd be happy to talk about that and help them in any way we can, but we don't really control that funding.
No, and again, I understand. I just want to thank the efforts of all those associated with New York Rising and working with HUD and their requirements, but and certainly in helping not only my constituents, but those throughout the state who are still, again, recovering from Superstorm Sandy. And lastly, you had mentioned in your testimony the See Something app and 40,000 downloads. Can you just walk us through the process of somebody downloading that app and the information that you may receive and how it goes forward after that?
Sure, happy to. It's a free app, any cell phone. You Google it, you'll find it, you can download it, and what it allows you to do is take a picture of whatever you might term suspicious. You can add a text to it and send it along, or you can just send the picture, and what it does is goes to the New York State Intelligence Center, where it is then reviewed and evaluated by members at the center, and it is pushed out to the way we handle, or the way the state police and the NYSEC handle tips now, it's pushed out to Joint Terrorism Task Force in the particular area that it might have been sent from. They have the right of first refusal, per se, and if they don't feel it's appropriate for them to adopt a case, it would go to a local police department. It can be geotagged, so even if you don't include a text, we can tell normally where it comes from.
I was going to say, those who give the information, is it confidential information on their end?
It is.
It is. Okay.
I believe that the state police and the people at the NYSEC reserve the right to try and contact them if they need to, but they don't have to.
Commissioner, once again, thank you very much for your efforts, and of course to our good chair, Senator Croce. I look forward to working with you as well.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Assembly.
Thank you very much. Assemblyman Lenthal.
Morning, Commissioner.
Good morning, sir.
And, thank you for your service. I just was wondering while you were testifying, maybe I'm behind the times, but I remember after 9/11 how much we were shortchanged by the federal government and the resources that New York City as well as New York State deserved, because we were the primary target of terrorism. And so I have two questions that leading from that. Is that still true? And does your agency have an advocacy function in Washington to make sure that we get the resources from them that we deserve for this problem?
Well, I can tell you that we are always advocating for more money from the federal government. I believe that the governor's office has that issue handled for the most part. We do not really lobby Washington for that, but we deal with FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security all the time. We receive in New York State probably 30% or in the area of 30% of the UASI money that's distributed throughout the country. And I would say 18% or so of the state Homeland Security grant program. Is that enough? I don't know if we could ever have enough, but we certainly do great things with that amount of money that we do get from the federal government.
As far as disaster preparedness goes, I remember, even though it wasn't my district, but in some places upstate during Irene and Lee, there were people who were flooded out and who died as a result of not being able to be rescued. And I wonder, since then, if we've developed a better, for lack of a better word, roadmap to be able to go by boat, by helicopter, or any other means in order to rescue people who may, in the future, be needed to be rescued from a storm like Sandy, Lee, or Irene.
Yeah, unfortunately, Assemblyman, we do learn from the tragedies and we react to them. We change our training structure and our tactics all the time based on the intelligence that we've received and the events that have occurred in New York State and around the world. We have targeted tech rescue grants, we call them now, that go to fire departments. We have swift water rescue programs that we train on. So we're well aware of that. Our first responders and our Office of Fire Prevention and Control teach many, many, many courses around the state in just that type of circumstance.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Senator Michael Nozzolio.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Good afternoon, I guess it is now. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Commissioner
Senator.
Mello. Kudos to you and the department, the division, for taking charge working with the governor under his direction in managing the emergency preparedness of our state. The reaction and storm management, communication, ensuring safety is improving with every incident and instance of those kinds of challenges, and I thank you and your division for that effort.
Thank you, Senator.
I would like to focus, however, on some issues that are not so seen. They're unseen, but personally could be extremely devastating to individuals, taxpayers, constituents of the state. And that's the issue of security, and specifically cybersecurity. That your division experiences with cybersecurity, and I'm, with all admiration for encouraging student participation in education, tell us beyond that, what is the division doing to beef up our cybersecurity efforts?
Well, the analysts that we have now, Senator, are co-located at the NISIC with the Multi-State Intelligence and Analysis Sharing Center, which is the federal government cybersecurity watchdog, if you will. They also work with the state police.
Is that in Rensselaer?
Excuse me?
Is that in Rensselaer? Where's that located?
Yes, it is.
Rensselaer. Oh.
Yeah, that's co-located with our New York State Intelligence Center. And the state police also are co-located there with their cybersecurity investigative teams. Probably in 2013, the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services cybersecurity was taken away as one of our core functions and removed to the ITS along with our funding and personnel. We don't have a main role in cybersecurity. We're well aware of it. We use it in terms of intel passing all the time. We have a critical infrastructure unit that goes all around the state and is legislated in some respects to do certain types of critical infrastructure and others not, but they take a cybersecurity component with them from ITS to do the cybersecurity inspections of, say, pipelines or energy transmission facilities, things of that nature.
This expands on Senator Croce's comments that we're finding the Division of Homeland Security not having direct reportable information by law and channel that is strengthened by law that provides that security function. And I'll be probing this with those representatives of Office of Information Technology later today and others, that you'd have to be totally immune from what's going on if we didn't recognize this. Last year alone, we've seen cyber attacks on the Internal Revenue Service, the Office of Personnel Management, even the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And if that's the case, isn't the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance going to be next? We've seen a major security breach in the largest repository of health and financial data probably in this state, in the data breach that occurred with Excelis last year. So I am wondering, what type of commitment do we have to help first guard our public sectorly held information, and secondly, encourage and assist those private companies doing business in New York to protect the data of its citizens?
Well, Senator, we're well aware of the cybersecurity threat. We at the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services view our role in cybersecurity as an intelligence-driven role, passing information along about schemes, attacks, issues. We also have the role of responding to an emergency that would occur as a result of a cyber attack. So it would not necessarily be the attack itself, but the issues that follow after that attack. And that's really what we would be functioning, or at least focusing on with our Office of Emergency Management. I think that the state is well prepared with their multi-state ISAC, the NISIC, and the state police, and the other efforts across the state from ITS to deal with those types of investigations. It's just not what we do per se.
And I understand that, Commissioner. I'm not suggesting that you be an investigatory or law enforcement operation. That's not your role. It's not something I would even suggest. However, just as you are involved in storm preparedness, just as you are involved in other disaster preparedness, why are we not having you involved? And I ask that question because I think it's something the legislature ultimately has to deal with along with the governor. Why are we involved, Homeland Security involved, in issues of cybersecurity protection, ensuring that that someone is overseeing with security in mind the vast data systems that are being held by state government? That's what I believe we need to address, and certainly after the fact is too late. The horse is out of the barn. It's too late a question for you to be involved. Then it's a question for law enforcement. But what should be done proactively by the Division of Homeland Security to protect the data of New Yorkers?
I believe we are doing what we need to do now, Senator. We react to issues that may or may not be created by a cyber breach. We have analysts that work with the state police in close coordination with the multi-state ISAC Center. So we are there to push information out that we receive about cybersecurity issues to our partners, to the public, to the private sector. So I believe our role is being fulfilled at this point.
I guess from a statutory standpoint, that is, I'm sure, accurate. But shouldn't the role be to protect in the first place? Shouldn't the role be not as a law enforcement enterprise and again, closing the barn door after the horse ran away? Shouldn't it be more to make sure the barn door is locked and not tampered with, and having the appropriate security to ensure that particularly the data is protected? And that, I think, is, let me ask you this. Who is in charge of the state to protect the data of its citizens that's entrusted with the state?
I would say the ITS, the state ITS, as well as the state police and their partners at the NISIC.
Commissioner, thank you. We'll certainly be probing that issue. And it may be something that our chair of the Homeland Security, Commander Croce, is going to be dealing with in the months ahead. So I appreciate your candor and your forthcoming comments.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Assemblyman Ortiz.
It's working? Good morning, Commissioner.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I have a few questions, very quick, if I can put my glasses. My first question is, what is the working relationship that you have with the IC and Homeland Security at the federal government?
The federal Homeland Security?
No, yours. What is the relationship between you, Homeland Security, and the federal Homeland Security? Do you guys talk to each other often, and how often?
We do talk to each other often. I would say more through email communications, but I do have conversations with people in Washington. I am the Homeland Security Advisor for the governor, so I am the point of contact for certain things with the Department of Homeland Security.
Okay, so going to my second question, so you are familiarized with the Obama deportations approach throughout the country, correct?
The what? I'm
The
sorry.
Obama deportation. The President of the United States has said he has given ICE the green light to go through state by state to deport folks after January 2014.